Hello friends, welcome to the Legion Raid detail guide featuring BRELSHAZA. BRELSHAZA is a raid where you can enter at item level 1490, and per 2 gates, the item level requirement increases to 1500 and 1520. I also want to give out a shout out to Mobalytics for helping me edit this video. They're also providing the written part of this guide, so if you want to check into details or use the cheat sheets, check the link out below in the descriptions. This guide will cover BRELSHAZA Gate 5. Let's get to it right away. Gate 5 of BRELSHAZA only has 3 major mechanics, but these mechanics require all players to perfectly execute them. The raid has a high chance to wipe or given a severe penalty, even if only one person in the raid makes a very minor mistake. It is definitely a less popular gate among all gates. Battle items recommended are whirlwind grenades and time stop. Last slot can be swiftness rope to help your movement speed. If you don't need them though, sacred charms are also good to cleanse your teammates from series of debuffs. If Stagger happens to be sufficient in the party, using Dark Grenade is a good idea to push your DPS faster. Here are the major HP lines you should keep in mind. 180. Wave of Shapes starts from the first shape mechanic. 143. Last stop to gather shapes. 140. Times 3 spots. 110. Memory Stagger. 90. Wave of Shapes starts for the second shape mechanic. 54. Last stop to gather shapes. 50. Times 3 plus 1 spots. Gate 5 of BRELSHAZA has low number of mechanics, but they last a very long time. The first mechanic starts from 180 to 140 lines. At 180 lines, boss will be at a short damage reduction and start spawning black and white shapes around the map. The black shapes are usually stationary, and white shapes are projectiles flying outwards from a point. Taking the same color shape will increase the color stack. Taking opposite color will work as takeaway stacks until 0. Meaning, if you take one white shape, you'll have 1 stack of the white buff. If you take 2 black shapes, you'll end up having 1 stack of black buff. Understanding this, you'll need to gather multiple stacks of the same color to receive a special roll for the next mechanic check. 2 stacks will be circle, 4 stacks will be square, 6 stacks will be hexagon, and 8 stacks will be star. This shape will appear on top of your head if it's done correctly. All players will need to organize and have all 4 types of shapes on top of their head. If you include the colors as well, the combinations are 8 shapes total, same as the number of raid members. Everyone will need to finish this before the boss's HP reaches 140 lines. Korean pugs operate this mechanic in a certain way to prevent confusion. You take times 2 shapes based on your party number, while party 1 taking white shapes and party 2 taking black shapes. For example, if I'm in the first party number 3, I will need to take 3 times 2, which is 6 white shapes total, to create a hexagon shape above my head. BRELSHAZA will spawn waves of shapes at about 5 lines of HP bars, starting from 180. When the HP bar passes 144 lines, there will be a last wave of shapes. It is very good to communicate to people at this point. Make sure to tell everyone that is the last stop to fix your shapes. If 2 shapes have failed to have both black and white versions of it, you must reset. If you have failed one shape, or if everyone has their correct shapes, cutting the boss's HP down to 140 will get to a transition phase, which also has a high damage reduction applied to it. She will have a specific animation indicating this as well. All players will receive a special buff with an explosion effect. Player with the black shape will have a ring around them, and if the white player with the same shape gets closer to the black shape player, you'll see a tether indicator. If this is done correctly until the time runs out, the player's shape will be installed under the black shape's player's feet. When all players have installed their shapes, the camera will zoom out and BRELSHAZA will proceed to fire a series of vertical, horizontal lasers throughout the map. If these lasers touch the shapes you have installed, the shape will explode, resulting into an automatic wipe. Korean pugs organize this mechanic from start to finish to avoid position confusions. Everyone will place their shapes at times 3 their party number, along with party number times 2 for taking shape amounts, while party 1 takes white and party 2 takes black. Colors can be reversed if needed. Therefore, to summarize, 3 o'clock will be a circle, which is party number 1, taking 2 shapes total. 6 o'clock will be square, which is party number 2, taking 4 shapes total. 9 o'clock will be hexagon, which is party number 3, taking 6 shapes total. 12 o'clock will be star, which is party number 4, taking 8 shapes total. Going back to the meteor phase, one random player will have a meteor falling down, It is its job to place the meteor to the corresponding shape hole everyone have placed beforehand. You'll need to do this for all 4 shapes. If you succeed scoring the meteor into the correct shape hole, there will be a black hole explosion that will slowly get larger. This won't damage you in the very beginning, but it will slow you down and damage you over time as it gets bigger. If you fail to score the meteor into the correct hole, the falling meteor will explode and deal significant damage to the whole map. If you fail this for the second time, there will be an automatic wipe. The fail amount is accumulated as well, meaning if you fail once and fail again at the second mechanic at line 50, you will also automatically wipe. BRELSHAZA's lasers during this phase is scripted, which is horizontal, vertical, horizontal, and vertical again. These lasers can't be time stopped, so since it's pre-scripted, be careful on dodging these. There will be explosions happening under your feet at the same time. These do a lot of damage and knock you out as well, causing unfortunate sudden deaths. Experienced people usually throw the explosions away at the center before moving away to dodge the vertical or horizontal lasers to give other players more room to dodge. The dropping meteor's hitbox is actually very generous, but if you happen to be on the opposite side of the map, you may not make it to the correct shape hole in time. Don't be around the corners too much when you could be selected for the meteor shape. Using Swiftness Robe is also a good idea if your class is slow. If you're ever selected by the meteor once, you won't be selected again, so you can rest around in any of the corners afterwards if you happen to be selected for the meteor drop. BRELSHAZA will get stunned when all 4 meteors are placed correctly. She is in this staggered phase for a long time, so a Dark Bomb is recommended here if the raid team wants to boost their overall DPS for the raid. Afterwards, she'll stand up and start channeling again. When she claps her hand, there will be a knockout explosion. It will knock you out, but there won't be any damage applied to it. When the next phase starts, few of BRELSHAZA's normal patterns will be enhanced. New patterns will appear as well. The second mechanic will start at 110 lines. BRELSHAZA will be at damage reduction again and float up to the sky while the camera zooms out. If you notice the map, the left, right, the center rune symbols will start lining up at random. BRELSHAZA will spawn 2 large black spheres on left and right side of the map and they'll land on the ground. You'll have to stagger in an order, both shaped and BRELSHAZA in the middle based on the order of the runes lighted up. If the rune on the right lighted up first, you'll need to stagger check right sphere, then left sphere, then BRELSHAZA within a given time. Since the party's positions are very far away, most pugs use chat, emojis, or voice comm to communicate the stagger finishes for the mechanic. You can also find the orders out by looking at the symbol on top of BRELSHAZA. The half moons will fill up based on the staggers the party have finished. Most parties in Korea are divided as Party 1 taking care of the left sphere, and Party 2 taking care of the right sphere. It is important for the first stagger to be done as fast as possible because everyone will be waiting on it to be finished. And since stagger amount is not as easy as you think, utilizing the whirlwind bomb here is a very good idea. If stagger order is wrong, or if stagger took long, the raid will automatically wipe. When the party is about to finish staggering BRELSHAZA in the middle, there will also be 2 BRELSHAZA clones appearing on top and bottom side of the map. They will cast a counterable attack after a few seconds. You will need to counter these, or they will apply a huge AoE damage with silence debuff. Raid teams generally wipe if both counters fail. There are a couple of options. You can utilize time stop like Vikis third gate 100 stagger mechanic, or have 1 player from each party to take care of the counters. The BRELSHAZA clones can be countered when she lifts up her hands with the flashing effect. Be careful to not make a mistake on countering too early. If you have successfully completed the stagger mechanic, the shapes that have been created will turn into a portal. If you go inside the created portals, you'll see gate 4 cube bosses in each dimensions. You'll need to kill both of them while doing a special mechanic. If all 8 players enter the portal, there will be an immediate wipe. 1 player will need to stay outside and play around with the boss to make sure she doesn't get bored. This is usually done by Party 2, who takes care of the right side gate. Because left gate requires all 4 players, but right side can theoretically be done by 1 person. Explaining the left dimension first, the cube boss will spawn ethers around the map during the battle. All players' goals are grabbing 3 of these ethers. The boss will also have a stagger check at 10 lines. This stagger check must be succeeded because it will spawn many ethers upon success. There will be enough ethers for everyone if the stagger mechanic is succeeded. If stagger is failed though, there will only be about 12 to 13 ethers dropping total, so it will be pretty hard for everyone to get 3 each. Even if 1 player cannot gather 3 stacks in total, there will be an automatic wipe. Everyone must have 3 ether stacks before exiting the gate. The cube will explode when HP reaches 0, so you must exit quickly using the G key, or you will either die from the explosion or be stuck in this dimension until the raid ends. So it is important to check again for everyone's stacks and hang around in the exit gate around 2 or 1 lines to avoid unfortunate raid wipes. Now going to the right dimension, the cube will drop heal ethers and solo enhanced ethers. The solo enhanced ether will grant you stagger bonus, but give you a bleed stack. The stagger bonus does not stack up, but bleed stack will. One person in the party will need to take 12 of these solo enhanced ethers before exiting. Since the bleed damage is significant, supports usually take this role of taking the 12 ethers. It is also recommended to have cleanse ready classes for party 2 to constantly cleanse these bleed stacks. This mini boss will also have a stagger check at 10 lines. If you fail this stagger check, there will only be 12 solo enhanced ether spawning. Sometimes it spawns 11 as bad seed. So unless the gatherer plays perfectly, you must succeed the stagger check. Make sure to tell the ether gatherer to stagger on the 10 bar instead of running around to gather ethers. I've personally done this as well, that caused a wipe in my early support days. After all things are completed, just like the left dimension side, check all stacks and hang around the exit portal before killing the boss, because the mini boss will explode and the portal will close if you don't exit fast enough. When everyone exits, all players from party 1 will have 3 stacks each, and one person from party 2 will have 12 stacks of solo enhance. These stack buffs last only 2 minutes as well, so unless the DPS difference is severe, it will be easy enough to match everyone coming outside before the 2-minute stack buff runs out. If everything is completed as intended, BRELSHAZA will cover herself with the shield and start to charge up her energy. You will need to destroy her shield and proceed to stagger her, and during this time, you must stand on top of the laser marks casted on the floor. If you stand outside of it, you'll get damaged and silenced. When the light rays on the floor completes with the stagger, you'll need to memorize the final shape of the light rays and stand on top of the correct shape out of the 4 options shown afterwards. There are multiple ways to memorize the pattern. Personally, I memorize it as T's, Y's, and X's. Some other experienced players memorize it by looking at 5, 6, and 7 o'clock lasers, because those lasers are the only deciding factor for the shapes. For example, if the final shape is X plus 3 o'clock, since only 5 and 7 o'clock out of the 5, 6, 7 is lighted up, you'll need to just find the option with the 5 and 7 o'clock lasers lighted up. If everyone in the party stands on the correct platform, you will receive a special buff that appears on your HP bar. You can use your push immune by then to not get launched up into the air for extra DPS time. Since there was a lot of information, let's summarize once more. At 110 lines, BRELSHAZA will fly upwards, and the rune will light up either left, right, center, or right, left, center. You will have to stagger them in the right order when the stagger check starts. You will also need to counter on top and bottom BRELSHAZA clones to prevent damage and silence. After stagger, 2 portals on each side will open. 4 people will need to go in left, and 3 people will need to go in the right portal. One person will have to play around with BRELSHAZA outside. You must succeed a 10-bar stagger on the mini-boss. Left portal requires 3 stacks of ether for each player. Right side requires 1 person to gather 12 solo ethers. If everyone successfully comes outside unharmed and with all the stacks, you will need to proceed to destroy BRELSHAZA's shield and stagger check again, while following laser indicators spawning on the floor. You will need to memorize how the laser indicators look like, and stand on the correct shape out of the 4 options spawned. After the long series of stagger mechanics, and passing the 90 HP lines, she'll start spawning series of shapes again, like the 180 lines mechanic. The shape waves will start exactly like the first mechanic, 5 lines per wave. The last wave will be 54 lines, with the mechanic starting at 50. Again, make sure to communicate with everyone to get the shapes correct, especially telling everyone to stop for shapes when 54 lines are reached. The shape installment for the second shape mechanic is going to be times 3 plus 1 for the party number. The shape needs to be installed exactly in the middle. This is because BRELSHAZA's laser attacks are going to be ring shapes instead of lines. Since the player with the black shape will install the shape, the player with that responsibility must install the shape in the middle of the tile. The mechanic itself will be exactly the same, with different laser patterns to dodge. You will need to score the meteors into the correct created hole shapes. The BRELSHAZA's laser attack will be a ring-shaped large explosion around the installed shapes. The order is going to be left, right, up, and down. If you have no failed shapes in the last shape mechanic, you can fail once here. If you have failed once at the first mechanic, it will be an automatic wipe if you fail once. After you succeed the mechanic, you'll need to drop her HP to 0 to finish the gate. Up to here was the major mechanic for BRELSHAZA Gate 5. Here are the more important critical normal patterns to review now. Tethers. Random players will receive a debuff. It is either going to be red or blue. Red requires players with the same curse to be grouped up until the end. Blue curse requires the center person to be away from the group. You can notice if the pattern is being executed properly by paying attention to the tethers created. If this is failed, there will be a significant damage applied to everyone. There will also be some variations with green pools and red spikes. You will need to maneuver accordingly as a group to avoid deaths. Knockout explosion to safe platforms. There are 2 variations. BRELSHAZA will channel her attack and knock everyone down with an explosion. You can use your push immunity if you happen to know the initial channeling animation timing. Afterwards, you'll need to find a large yellow platform or small blue and yellow platforms to stand on before near-death damage incoming in your way. The small yellow-blue platform version also has an additional explosion under your feet after the initial blast. You will need to be keen and dodge those as well. The blue safe platform initially does a little bit of damage, but it's better than getting hit by the outside blast, so make sure to stand in one of these safe spots. Remember, time stop is your best friend here. Medusa. Yellow light ray shaped explosion will happen around the map. If you happen to stare at the explosion, you will receive a non-cleansable debuff. While with this debuff in place, using any skills and actions, including stance change, will cause this debuff to transform into a silence. This silence debuff can be cleansed, so if your party has sufficient cleanses, it is smart to activate the silence debuff on purpose to cleanse it right after. Medusa will always be 2 casts and 3 casts after 140 lines. Counter. BRELSHAZA will look at a random aggro and cast an energy wave. Then she'll turn around once to fire the same wave. Then she'll turn around to the initial aggroed person to cast her 3rd wave. The 3rd wave is counterable. Seaweed Attack. Black seaweed-like lines will appear on BRELSHAZA. There will be gaps in between them. The range is extremely far, so running away won't help as much. She always casts this twice, so dodging the first one and positioning for the second attack is a great opportunity to DPS. This pattern after 140 lines will also have ring explosions that will petrify you. Shield Dash. BRELSHAZA will shield herself and slowly float to a random aggroed player. If anyone intercepts her, her shield will break and land on the ground. Dash to pools. BRELSHAZA will dash and knock out everyone on our path. Afterwards, there will be a series of ring-shaped explosions happening under your feet. Since this is a ring-shaped explosion, unless the explosion itself overlaps with other players, standing in the middle is usually safe. When normal phases are enhanced, there are 2 additional variations to this. She will also teleport to a counterable donut attack, or she'll dash backwards right away that can also be countered. Black Hole. There are 2 variations. BRELSHAZA put one of the 2 variation debuffs on a player throughout the fight. One of them is a black hole. It will be placed at the nearest player upon casting. The warned player will have a black circle indicator under their feet. After a few seconds, a black hole will drop and will get enlarged as time passes. It will deal damage over time and slow people inside. You must throw this away at the far side of the map. The second variation is a black larger circle indicator with a cross. The goal is to split the total damage among the players who stand on top of the pool. After a few seconds, there will be a lightning strike that will damage everyone in the pool. More people there are, the damage is divided to prevent sudden death damage. Phantasm Suicide Bomber. This object starts appearing from 180 lines till the end. This object is stationary at first, but if you damage them, it will slowly float to the initial player who attacked. You can lower its HP to 0 and detonate it, but this detonation explosion damage is over 100% max HP damage, so you must have a damage reduction buff or use time stomp to prevent sudden death. The explosion itself is very slow as well. You can usually walk out of it if you keep calm. Sometimes people use time stop way too early to get hit by the explosion afterwards, so you must watch your time stop timing as well. There's going to be more suicide bombers beyond 90 lines and their explosion range will be much larger. If you leave them alone for a while, it will also explode by itself. So always make sure to watch out for the red warning indicators as if they're going to kill you in one shot. At 50 lines, after the second shape mechanic, the explosion radius turns to a series of rings instead. There will be a lot of them, and they will also explode much quicker than usual. You must be on your guard at all times, and identify the explosion ring indicators at all times. Also, don't hesitate to use your time stop at any times. Now let's talk about Sidereals. In Gate 5, Azena will appear again, with a Nana as well. There will also be a new Sidereal, Shandi. Esther Nana will throw more Ancient Spears compared to Gate 1 and 2, dealing massive damage to BRELSHAZA. Esther Shandi will reset everyone's cooldown once, with massive attack speed and cooldown buff, along with slowing the boss's time. Esther Nana is exactly the same as usual. Shandi is often used at 140 or 50 lines when BRELSHAZA is stunned, with adding Dark Bombs into it. However, the raid team's overall DPS will have to be higher with top gear scores. This is also why most tri-raid groups often use Azena to push DPS here. Esther Nana is sometimes used when shapes are failed, to decrease incoming damage to the players. As for Azena, it is not recommended to be used during shape collecting phases, because she will push bars too fast to a point where too many shapes will spawn for harder maintenance on the shape responsibilities. Additionally, when 140 and 50 bar mechanics finish, you receive about a third of an Esther meter. So if you use Azena right after the mechanic, you can also receive the bonus Esther meter right away to efficiently use the Esther energy. Therefore, as for Azena, it is recommended to use after 140 line stun, 110 shield pattern, and 50 line stun, an additional DPS push afterwards to increase clear rate for the gate. With that, this concludes the Gate 5 guide of BRELSHAZA. As always, thank you everyone, and good luck. Bye.